Hello, everyone, and welcome to Shop Talk. My name is Whitney. I am one of your co-hosts, owner of Thrifty Whitney Shop here on Instagram and on thriftywhitney.com. And Nicole will be joining me here shortly for our 16th episode of Shop Talk. I'm so excited you guys are here. We are going to have a 2024 recap. So I'm pretty excited about all the things that we're going to cover with this last episode. If you're joining me, thank you so much. If you can't make it for the whole thing, we will have a replay available here on Instagram and on YouTube. If you want the link for my YouTube channel, just type in YouTube below, all one phrase, no space, and then I will automatically send you a DM with my YouTube link. So we're just waiting for Nicole here, and then we'll get started. I'm just going to put that down here. YouTube to get replay link. So you have to actually type in YouTube as it looks like YOU. YouTube is one of the hardest automations to use because people type YouTube out in all kinds of different ways. So we do have like an outline of things that we're going to cover here. If there's anything that you would love to hear us talk about, then you can actually put them down right here. Do you see that little speech bubble with a question mark in there? That is the best place to put all of your questions, because putting your question in there makes sure that it doesn't get lost in the comment stream. Sometimes with people coming into the live or people commenting and saying things, it can be really easy to miss your questions. So putting it in that question box area makes sure that we don't miss it. So, and if you're on here, just let me know where you're at in the world. I always love seeing kind of the big geographical spread of people who are coming in. Tell me where you're selling, if you're selling on Instagram, on a booth, Etsy. We just always have a really wide range of sellers, and I love to kind of see what you guys are doing. As I mentioned, this is our 16th episode. If you get our Massachusetts, if you're able to get onto the YouTube channel by commenting YouTube, then you will be able to see all of our past episodes, all the way back to episode number 1, which is just basically how to start selling vintage online. And it's amazing to look back and see about all the things that we've covered. There's Nicole. We have covered Etsy, Instagram live sales, shipping, branding, Shopify, just it's all kinds of different things. So, all right, now Nicole is going to hop on here and then we're going to get started. Hello. Ooh, I would love to be in Southern California right now. That sounds delightful. I hopefully my,
Hi,
hello. Hey, it's so good to see you.
how are you?
I'm good. I'm really excited about today. About today's topic. It's been fun kind of just looking back and recapping. So I was just kind of catching up everyone on okay, sorry, I'm reading the comments too. Seeing everyone's kind of commenting where they're watching from, what kind of shops or how they sell, and
Oh,
just
fun.
yeah, reflecting on what a great year of Shop Talk that it's been. So
It's been, I can't even believe we're on what, episode 16?
yeah, I had to keep double checking that number because it's wild to think that over a year ago we started Shop Talk. So
I know. You had mentioned it in a story, and I was like, really? And I like, I had to like count them out because I was like, there's no way there's been 16 episodes already. And thank you all for like being here, and hopefully you're enjoying them.
yeah,
They're a
yeah.
lot of fun.
Oh man. Okay, so like I mentioned, we're just gonna like this is gonna be a little bit different because I mean we have an outline and we've gotten questions from everyone, but this is gonna be pretty laid back and just a conversation about things. And Nicole, I mean I've like been looking at my numbers, but I haven't sat down and like done the math.
No. Oh, you've
We
still done a lot. Okay.
okay. No, it's just you look at the numbers and you think, wow, it's amazing the picture of our business that can live in our head. And then when you look at the numbers, you're like, oh, that is not exactly aligned with reality, in a good way. So anyway, yeah, so we're just gonna jump in, and like I said, if anyone has questions, drop them in the little speech bubble at the bottom with the question mark. And Nicole,
Yeah.
do you want to like an overview of like what like 2024, what big milestones do you see in your shop like when you look back over the past year?
Um, okay, so 2024, I remember like day one, I was like, okay, 2023 was great and all, but a little chaotic, like with the how I managed the inventory and how I was invoicing and how I was keeping track of orders and everything. I was like, enough. Like, so my word for 2024 was streamline. And I think I pretty much achieved that, which was like a huge hurdle to kind of like get over because I don't know if you guys know, but I'm a little anal about things. And I'm kind of like meticulous and, everything has to be just right. So it was hard for me to go from what I was using for the past really like almost 3 years and just kind of be like, nope, let's start over. So I think I was able to achieve that, thank God, because
What
I was a little nervous.
did you change? I mean, I know because we talked about it, but
So
just so people, what were big changes?
um, the biggest change was going from except like sending requests on PayPal and sending requests on Venmo to just signing up for a business PayPal and sending invoices. Huge time saver. Yes, you pay a fee, but honestly, that was so much. I would rather have my time than the money that I'm paying for the invoicing service. And I can go through like pros and cons of that kind of stuff if you guys are interested in that. But so well, the main thing I did was I condensed my inventory spreadsheet. So instead of my accountant was like, okay, all I need to know is how much you spent on inventory per quarter. So rather than me itemizing every single item that I had and saying where I got it and how much it was and all that kind of stuff, I just said I went to Lafayette Mill on 1/12/24 and I spent $64.32 and I used my credit card. And that's it. I didn't say I bought the Ironstone coffee pot for this much money or like the breadboard for this much money or whatever. And that saved hours, like probably over 100 hours this year of just not itemizing everything out. And now you have to see what works for your state or your country with what you need for tax purposes. But that was more for what I thought I needed to keep track of. And honestly, it was such a huge weight that lifted off my shoulders by just saying, this is what I got on it. Like, this is how much I spent on this day. Like I said, reducing my payment methods to only PayPal invoicing. That way I can go through PayPal and do like click a few buttons and say, it says all my numbers, how much I charged for shipping, how much I charged, how much tax I collected for New Jersey, all those kinds of things. I no longer had to keep track of orders manually because I used invoicing. So everything was there in the database for me. I tried to like keep up with bookkeeping at the end of every week. So like, okay, this week I went to, I'll track all my like where did I go this week? Where are my mileage? What expenses what did I buy for expenses? What did I buy for inventory? Were there any online charges, that kind of thing? And I tried to, at the end of every week, to like keep up with that so that quarterly I didn't have to like, oh no, it's almost the 20th. I need to get this submitted type of a thing. And then I tried to, instead of like going out sourcing, well, I never really went out daily, but like instead of a couple times a week, I tried to limit it to like one time. That way it was like easier to manage. And then if I went on a sourcing trip that was a couple days long, so like Brimfield, I would have a higher budget.
Mm-hmm.
That way I was utilizing the time and energy that was allocated for that trip, and I was able to buy in bulk instead of going like little here and there and everywhere, because that saved a lot of time.
Mm. Oh, I mean it. Yeah, it's all streamlining. Okay, someone asked how did that affect your pricing process? I think she means when you go to price because you weren't tracking the inventory cost on individual items. Do you just you would generally know you would still kind of remember roughly how much you paid for something and how much you could price it at? Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
I kind of had a budget for certain things, unless it was something weird, not weird, how do I say it? Out of the norm. Like if I'm buying an ironstone pitcher, I know I'm not going to spend more than like $30, say, right? Or you kind of have a budget for the type of items that you buy. Now, if you buy all different types of things or like one-off things, like Whitney has been buying more like unique items that aren't necessarily, how would you say, common.
Yeah.
So like those might be harder to track, then maybe I would write something down, or like you could put a sticker on the bottom of the item, like how much you paid or like the minimum that you would want to charge for it. But more or less, I kind of have like an idea in my mind of like if I won't spend more than X amount on this type of item. So that when I go to price it, I know that I'm at least like doubling what I have into it.
Yeah. And just a plug for a future episode, this spring we're going to have some bookkeeping experts come in, some reselling bookkeeping experts to go over because we are not experts at all. We're kind of flying by the seat of our pants, at least I am.
Me
Um,
too.
important, like I keep, one thing that was like a big mindset shift for me is like there's the stuff you have to track for taxes. That's why your CPA is like, I just need to know the gross amounts. But then there's also the things that we need to know um, in order to run a healthy business, like the actual accounting. So I, when I have my inventory, when I put it in Shopify, there's a cost of goods a window there, and so I pop that in there so I can see. And then it's nice because then when I put my listing price in, it automatically calculates the profit margin. Um, and it is helpful to see if things sell on discount to be like, okay, I didn't make my margin on that and stuff. But I and it's so funny because I have some other friends. We've had so many conversations about this with. I started out on a spreadsheet and then I got to a point where it was overwhelming, and I'm kind of not a, I don't know, I'm not like, I don't enjoy the nitty gritty details. And so as soon as I could switch over to like Wave apps, which is what I use for my bookkeeping, and get away from like manually entering expenses on a spreadsheet, because I was like, I'm going to make a mistake. I'm going to mess something up. I'm going to miss it. Like, I should not be, I'm not responsible enough to be. So.
I mean, you could click one wrong button or like, I don't know, something could fall on your keyboard and then you lose or you modify information. So,
oh, my husband created this monster spreadsheet with a bajillion. Okay, this is so inappropriate, but we always joke he's a freak in the sheets. Like he loves spread. I mean, I'm not kidding, guys. We even were having an argument, and instead of arguing with him, I went and made a spreadsheet. He was so happy. He was just like, this makes sense. This is logical. I can't hear you when you're upset and crying and emotional. But if I make a spreadsheet showing the pros and cons and the expenses and the projected revenue, etc., it makes sense to him. Side note, some marital disputes should be solved with spreadsheets. Anyway, but the formula was so it was so insane that I was like, this is ridiculous. Like, I can't handle this anymore. I am going to mess this up. So yeah, I think it's good though for like when you first get started to that nitty gritty. Like you need to know how much you paid for something and how much it sold for, because you need to figure out what your margins are and what your rules are and stuff. And then you get to a point where you're like, you just know because we've done it so much. So.
well, I had been writing everything down in a notebook. So like the Excel spread, I still use the Excel spreadsheet to calculate mileage and expenses and whatever else I have in there. Oh, I have my contact list in there just in case for whatever reason, I don't know, PayPal or Pirate Ship or whatever like crashes, and then I lose all my all my customer info. I have that all in a spreadsheet too. But yeah, I was tracking all of my purchases in a notebook, and then I would go in. If it sold, I would cross it off. And that was just becoming obnoxious. So I was like, okay, well, then if I'm already saying how much I'm paying, like at each place, like on my spreadsheet for like accounting purposes, then just writing everything down in my notebook was more for me, but it was causing so much extra work that I felt I could just like nix that.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, yeah, that makes sense.
But it was like that control that you kind of lost. I was like, oh, okay. Like I had to like breathe a little bit through it because, but I mean, it worked out. I had so much like more time to then put into buying items, selling items, building relationships with people. So
Yes.
that was good.
It's always a question of like, is this activity actually generating revenue? Is it actually making me money? Is it leading? And sometimes it doesn't directly, like email lists and that marketing doesn't, I mean, it does lead to sales, but sometimes it's like a longer lead up. But I do think that bookkeeping and accounting is one of those things. It can, if you do it badly, it can lose you money, or if it's too time consuming, it loses you money because that's time you could spend selling stuff.
Mhm.
So I that's become one of my, like when I feel stuck and I feel like a little overwhelmed with all of the tasks on my to-do list, or what do I do next in my business? I'm like, what is most likely to lead to a sale? What is the next thing I can do most likely to generate revenue? And then I like move into that. So yeah. Do you want me to share kind of
Yeah.
my year review? Um, so I had a lot of big, I mean, so my big, I was looking back at my big milestones. I did vintage market days in March. So that was my second antique vintage show, in-person show. I opened my second antique booth in July at the second store. And then in October, I closed my first antique booth. And then throughout the whole year, it was figuring out weekly live sales, website, Etsy. And so a lot of my business shifts were, and honestly, I didn't even write this down, but one of my biggest shifts in the business was like really honing in on what kind of shop that I wanted to run, like what stuff I wanted to sell. I feel like I spent a few years dabbling and experimenting in a lot of different styles of items and different things.
Mhm.
And then I finally, and I don't know why I was so, hesitant, but I finally just embraced my Anglophile self and recognized like this is the style that I love, is English inspired country house. And it even feels weird to say that because sometimes I still feel like some of the stuff that I sell doesn't completely align with it. So it's also having the courage to be like, this is my vision and I'm not completely there, but this is the direction I want to go in, having even like a 5-year plan of this is what I want to do in the business. This is where I want to be in 5 years. And I think it took 3 years of experimentation to answer that because I didn't have that answer at the very beginning. So
Mhm.
I definitely learned that I cannot do antique shows at this season of life. They are so much work. It's and with my, I always tell people like the people I see who are most successful at this, they generate the bulk of their revenue from shows, doing in person. Like they do them a lot. It is the amount of inventory that you have to carry, the work it is to set up an entire booth for like 3 days and then tear down. They don't have small children. They have husbands who are
Mhm.
working them or have very very flexible jobs. But for me, with 3 kids 10 and under and a husband with like a full-time professional job, it was just managing all of that for the amount of revenue that brought in, which was what, like 4% of my revenue for the year. And
Mhm.
it was like, that's not worth it.
Not worth it.
It's not worth it. And then I also figured out like, yes, someone says shows equal a lot of work and a lot of bruises. The networking was amazing. The meeting of the people was amazing. I'm not saying I will never do a show ever, but right now for like where I'm at in family family life. If I'm building a business that meets my family's needs, not creates more chaos, you know. And so right now it's like it really doesn't. It's too much stress. So, and I also found out that I need to just be in one store. I thought that was a big shift, and I don't know that I've talked about that here on Shop Talk because, you know, I had my booth. November 2023, I opened my booth at an antiques, antiques mall here in town, and it was like a wonderful experience. Love the store, love the staff, absolutely wonderful people. And then I had an opportunity to open a second booth, and it's really really close to my kids' school. I'm down there all the time, and I thought, oh, I can do both, and I'll have different styles. Like I'll have this style and this price at my first store, and then I'll do a different one. But then I quickly realized, and I read a book called Essentialism by George McCown. It's called Essentialism. I mean, it was published more than 10 years ago. And that was a huge shift for me because I am definitely someone who gets scattered and I want to do all the things and I want to do this and that and stuff. And it was like, no, like for me to really be successful and to be focused in my business, I have got to, like you said, streamline, slim down. Instead of spreading myself so thin, especially in this season where my kids still need me a lot, I have got to just focus on being like a mile deep. And so that helped me to see, really it came down to the style and type of items I could sell at the second store. And it was just so easy for me to get into the store before school pickup, after school, you know, whatever. And made me really was a kick in the pants to be like, okay, I just need to focus on this space and not trying to juggle basically two different aesthetics, two different styles and price points at the two different stores. Like that wasn't serving me well, and it wasn't serving my customers well either. So it's just like a lot of really good. I'm definitely someone, I got to touch the hot stove and get burned to learn my lesson. And I touched the stove a lot this year.
Me too. I'm like that too. And I actually did that when I was a kid.
Oh yeah.
So,
just
yeah, I need to learn my lesson that way, because sometimes it's the only way that it'll actually get through, because people could tell you, oh yeah, like you should do this. Oh, okay. Like I value your advice, but no, I'm gonna do it this way. And it's like, oh, I should have listened.
Yeah.
So I'm glad you were able to like come to that conclusion. And it's probably so much easier to manage too, that it's now one location.
Yeah, it really is. And the amount of inventory you have to carry, and it's just, you know, every year it's like your business changes and evolves, and that was a stepping stone to the next thing, you know. And so it's just figuring out, okay, what fits, what do I need right now, I think is important. What other wins did you have this year? This is fun because I wrote down my wins, but I can't see we have a shared document.
I wrote mine down on my computer. Well, my business grew, which was good. I doubled the amount of customers I had this year versus the past 3 years.
Oh,
so
like, is that number of people you were invoicing? I didn't even think about looking at that number.
So every month I write down like all of the customers that I have that month, so that way I could keep track if they want their box open, if they want to close it, if there are new people. So every month I was writing down the amount of new customers, and it was like roughly, one month it was 22 new customers, and I was like, oh my goodness, like that's a lot. It was about 160 something new customers this year. That's crazy to me, and that's just on Instagram.
How many customers? Sorry, the comment popped up, and then I got some. How many customers?
It was like 160 something new customers.
Wow, that's massive.
It might be. I have to double check that number, but it was more than what I had in my spreadsheet to begin with. And I looked up. to date, I've sent out 664 packages, and not one of them had a damaged item. So that was pretty good. Well, at least I don't know. Nobody nobody said like, "Hey,
You should.
this came broken." So I think that was like a win. Well, I have been using more like packing peanuts. So, and I use the recycled, what is it? The biodegradable ones. So that definitely helps like to cushion. Um, I organize my shop room to be a little bit more efficient. So I'm not like, well, I'm still running around like a chicken without a head, but I have like designated areas for like each step.
Yeah.
Um, and then I tried to manage, so I was managing my box inventory. I would like break them down, and Alexis from Little House Finch had posted a reel on this where she like would number her boxes and then like write down the size. So I was able to maintain that throughout the year, and I like try to stay on top of like what kind of packing supplies I need so that I didn't have to be like, oh shoot, I ran out of X, like whatever. I can't continue packing. So I like tried to like really stay on top of ordering, and then I liked how you had said that you do it like on a schedule.
Like
So like you don't like you order everything kind of like around the same time, so then it's easier to track too. So I've been doing that.
like a
Um,
part I learned from being in healthcare was keeping things at a par level. So let's say like it's like you don't wait until you use the last box to order more. You wait until you receive, oh, I only have 5 boxes, and you know, or do you use that box 15 times a month? And at the first of the month, you just go ahead and order more. Like, yeah, because that is a panicky, like, especially in the holiday season. Like, I mean, yeah, you have
yeah.
to.
Well, like, except for right now, so I sound like a hypocrite because I have to go to Staples to grab a couple more bigger boxes. But yeah, more or less kept on top of that. And it kind of helped me determine what sizes I needed. I started ordering boxes a little bit more frequently versus just saving. Because they're just, I mean, yes, I want to recycle as much as possible, and I don't want like if I don't use it, I bring it to the recycling center. But it's just you have to learn to say no to certain sizes if you don't use them. And I was just like I would cut them up and use the strips for extra like support or for wrapping certain things, but I definitely like learned how to, okay, well, I'll pay money for these boxes because I know I use them really frequently, or I don't know.
Yeah.
I kind of just like was able to try to be more efficient with how everything was being run.
I find that the bigger box sizes are worth purchasing standard box sizes, like the 15-inch square box, the 12-inch square box, larger than a cubic foot, because a difference of a couple inches can be like $10 more in shipping if you don't have a box, or if you have a box that's more than 22 inches long or more than 20
Yeah.
inches long. I mean, it gets really expensive. So that is an expense we have to try to save with the customer too. So, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that's all. I think that's really important. Um, so I had some one of my big wins was starting to use mini chat, MANY chat, which is my DM automation. You guys are using it now if you're commenting YouTube. If you comment YouTube, you can get a link to my YouTube channel, and that will get you the link so that when I post the replay after this, you can have it. That was a huge game changer because that helped me add something like 1,600 people to my email list over the past
Oh
year.
wow.
Um, and to deliver the lead magnets, which are the freebies, like my gift guide, my quilt washing guide, the starter kit that a lot of you guys have. You can comment starter kit here. You can get my free, it's like a free guide with all the resources and everything that I use for the shop, platforms, my email provider, even shipping supplies, cleaning supplies, all of that in there. And that was again, I was talking to someone who's like, I don't know how you do it all. And it's like, well, I don't, because I pay for automation, all the things. Like I pay for my automated bookkeeping, I pay for mini chat, I pay, But that really has saved me a lot of time and helped me grow my business. My revenue grew by 25% this year.
That's good. That's a lot.
But okay, so just keep these numbers in mind, guys. This is what I said about listen but don't judge. Okay? Starter kit. Lucy Jane Cottage starter kit. Sorry, I should put that in the comments. Starter kit is because with the mini chat you have to say specific words. So my revenue grew 25%. Interesting, my shipping packaging costs decreased by 43%. I think I shipped a bit less because I was focusing on my booth. And I think I just found ways to like save on packaging. I still get boxes and stuff. Oh my gosh, our church has this Christmas event, and I filled one car with small boxes and air packs, went home, got my van, came back and filled up the back of the van with probably $100 worth of packing supplies. It's all in our garage. So I've just had some people who've been really know exactly what I want, and they save it for me, you know, so I'm not taking anything, but they know what I want. So that's been huge. And basically my overall, even with the revenue increase, my overall operating expenses, like they actually decreased by 2%. So basically the same, my operating, my overhead. So that means like accounting fees, all the computer software so I'm paying for ManyChat, my email platforms, etc. Office supplies, payroll, because I have a couple of VAs that do just a little bit of work on the side for me, even professional fees, like I'm in a coaching group for Instagram, even shipping charges, which is actually my shipping charges, this was interesting, dropped by 38%. So I shipped a lot less this year, but because of my booth. And so this is interesting. Okay, guys, did you hear that? I shipped 38% less than I did last year, but my revenue grew by 25% because I had my booth. Now my booth only accounts for 18% of my revenue, but I sold higher end items. So I focused on increasing my average sale price of the item I was shipping. Now that would be an interesting, I didn't look at that to see what my average sale price was. Like but that is one way that I increased my revenue, was simply selling more expensive stuff or increasing the average cost of the box. But drum roll, I spent, I'm sorry.
Hit the counter. I was like, oh, that's enough.
70% more on inventory.
I don't know how to figure that out, but I spent a lot of money this year on inventory.
Listen, and we don't judge.
So, a lot.
I posted a reel yesterday about overbuying, and when I saw these, and then I broke down the numbers, like, okay, how much money would I have had in my pocket if my inventory buying had kept pace with my revenue growth? So instead of 70%, my inventory costs really should have also increased by 25% along with my revenue. But instead, I had a few months last spring where I was selling, I'm talking like selling a ton, like twice as much as I normally do. And then I started buying as if that was and it did not. It bottomed out, but I kept buying. And, I was talking to a friend, and she's like, that's not lost money. That's not lost money. The thing is, this is all stuff I'm going to sell. I track my inventory, and I use Shopify. So I'm all on Shopify. So it's all through there. And I'm pulling these numbers from Wave apps. It's really similar to QuickBooks or Quicken. I like Wave because I don't know. It just seems I've just always used it for years and years. So that, and the amazing thing is I still pulled a profit. I still made money. I still paid myself. I still, like, my business didn't burn to the ground, Oh, this is funny. I'm laughing now because someone just came in Leslie, you missed the big reveal. She's someone who's helped me with some of the accounting, bookkeeping numbers and stuff. So anyway, me spending 70% more on inventory, whereas my revenue only went up 25%, like that is cash that could have been, that my family could have used, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's like a huge wake up call to me, that it kind of backs up my emotional experience of the shop this year, and been like, okay, now certain things are working. Selling higher end merchandise is working because, again, my revenue went up. But my buying outpaced my ability to list. So that's something, like if I can only list 20 items a week, I have no business going out and bringing 100 items or 50 items home. So that's my vulnerability.
Sorry, a delivery must be here or something because the dog is going nuts.
I'm looking at I'm sorry, question. So yeah, that's my lesson. That's kind of my big lesson I pulled from my numbers. Someone asked, if you pay cash at a sale, if you pay cash and can't get a receipt as a sale, you can still list it as an expense. When I get cash withdrawals from my ATM, I just mark it as inventory expense in my bookkeeping stuff, because that's what I'm pulling the cash for. Is that what you do?
I mean, I still write it down as inventory or expenses, and then I just say like I have like a method of payment column, and I'll say if I use the credit card, if I use like a Venmo balance or PayPal balance or cash.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't had an issue with it. I mean, I don't think you're going to unless you get audited, but you hope you don't. I don't know what. I mean, because even at estate sales, sometimes they don't give you receipts. Some of them are great and they actually do, but
No.
Usually with cash, I never get a receipt.
No. Yeah. So what were some of, did you have any lessons or things, lessons learned?
Well, I finally started an Etsy shop at the end of last year, but then I only listed like 50 items this whole year.
It
I think
really,
that was a flop.
so let's talk about that, because that's something I'm struggling with too, and that's something where I'm like, things I want to do better next year, but figuring out how to balance live sales and listing on a website it's really hard.
It's hard because, how do you say it? It's so much easier to sell on Instagram, I think. And it's more profitable to sell on Instagram. But that's if you sell. Like you could list all the items you want and you can make like 3 sales. But you could also list those items on a bigger platform where you have more exposure and then get more sales. But it takes more time and you have to pay a certain fee to use their platform. So I think I just need to get over that. Like on Instagram, I'm more or less, I have like an instant sale. So like if I'll post a collection of items, maybe I'll sell like half of them, like within a day. But if I post, say, like the same amount of items on Etsy, I might get 1 sale.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's more of like that instant, I don't want to say like gratification, but I think it's like that instant sale that like kind of helps like move things along, that I don't really want to get, like I don't want to eliminate that. So I just need to like say, no, like too bad, you have to list X amount of items on Etsy per week. Or maybe I only list certain items on Etsy and then I sell other, I don't know. I have to figure that out. But I was finally like, woohoo, I have one. And then I started moving items that didn't sell on Instagram over to Etsy just so that you guys didn't have to see like the same thing every week on a live sale. Or like I tried to like kind of cycle it a little bit so it wasn't so repetitive, but I don't know.
Yeah, right. It's Etsy
Yeah.
is long game. Now things can sell right away, and sometimes it's things, especially if they're higher end and they just take a few months to sell. So, but it is definitely like a positive feedback loop where the more you list, the more you sell.
Right.
Like, the more active you are, the higher you end up in the search rankings. And, so you do have to kind of see it as more of like a long-term investment. So, but I'll tell you, Etsy. So Etsy still accounts for 23% of my revenue. So, which is like a really decent chunk. Basically, 54% come from Shopify. Now, I don't break it down on Shopify between live sales and website sales, because then sometimes I do private sales, where I find something and I know someone's going to like it, then I just sell it directly to them. And I invoice through Shopify, just like Nicole is using PayPal. I have that option through Shopify, so it all runs through there. But, for Etsy, that's still like a decent chunk. So, and things sell on there. How are you able to get a following on your Instagram so you could start lives? We cover all of that early on in episode 2. Hold on. Episode 4 on selling vintage on Instagram. So we kind of talk about that some too. And Candace says, it's been hard for me to wrap my head around things not selling so quickly. Yes. The other thing too, guys, it's not 2020 anymore. We have to, especially for those of us who started selling post-COVID, we have to get our brains out of expecting people to just be throwing money towards antiques. It's just, we're never going to see that short cycle again, I don't think, of listing and selling out. It's just not, it's not going to be that way. Hopefully, I say hopefully, for a very long time, because there were very extreme circumstances that caused that unusual economy. So, just figuring that out. And also finding things like, hey, like, I don't want to invest a ton of money in something that takes a year to sell too. So we also have to figure that out. Like, what are things that can sell at a relatively like short turnaround? So,
and I think for me too, like, storage is, I've kind of exploded all over the house. Like, there's antiques everywhere. I think, like, if storage is a struggle, I guess, for you guys, or like if you don't have a lot of space to wait for an item to sell, then you have to kind of look at it differently too. Like, right now I have one bookcase just full of items that I either listed on Etsy that I'm waiting to sell, or items that I'm going to list on Etsy that I have to just take pictures or measurements or things like that. But I have the ability to use a bookcase for that, but maybe you guys don't. So, like, you have to see, like, what works better for you. Maybe having a booth, because then you have your inventory out of the house waiting to sell and not like in your house. So it's just what works. But
I would really like to decrease also my turnaround from when I buy something. I have stuff that I bought 6 months ago. I maybe showed it in a few live sales, but it's not on my website. It's not on my booth. I want to drop that to like less than a month, ideally a couple weeks, to where if I buy unless it's seasonal or I have a specific future event I'm planning for, like, I want that up and available, because it is literally money. It's just money sitting on the shelf. I have capital wrapped up in non-liquid assets, and I can't do anything with it.
Oh, I have tons of stuff, even from like my Brimfield trip last fall, like last year fall, that I haven't listed yet. And then when my husband is like, why are you going out and buying more? Like, I understand where he's coming from, but like, but it's fun.
I know.
And you want to look for certain other things too, but then you end up, like, I think if you like have a clear mind, like, say you want to go out and you want to find vintage Christmas because it's the season. Okay, but then only buy vintage Christmas. Don't buy 20 other things that are just going to sit on your shelf. So like I think I really need to like that's for next year. I really need to like be intentional of like what I'm buying and when I'm buying it so that it's not like, oh, I'm gonna get this unless it's like a really great deal and I can like kind of squirrel it away for later. But it's just too much. And then I'm like shifting, I'm moving everything around all over the place because I bought too many things and I'm not ready to like list them or they're coming like months later, like this is for springtime kind of a thing.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yes, I'm figuring out now on the flip side too. One of the lessons I actually did learn last year is that buying strategically in bulk certain items is really easy cash flow. For example, horse brass. Horse brass I can get at a really low price point. It's a cheap. I try not to list cheap items on my website because of the amount of time it takes, but I can do those in lots of 5. So what I've been doing is creating a listing of 4 or 5, and this is a tip for Etsy also. Creating a listing of 4 or 5 and then putting them up on my website, and they're so fast to ship, they're so fast to photograph. It takes like I can duplicate the listings, and if you're on Etsy, Etsy likes it if a listing sells over and over and over again. So this is a problem for those of us who are selling one of a kind vintage items. But what I have found, if the horse brass, like if I have a lot of 5 and then one sells, the second one is going to sell, and the third one, like Etsy bumps them up.
Okay.
And I bought like 500 pieces of restaurant ware from a VFW that closed. Now that took a, honestly, I ended up donating some of the cups. I had too much and I was like, I got to make space for other inventory. But this fall, as people are getting ready for the holidays, it has been selling over and over and over again. And it's just been, people are buying 8 plates, 10 mugs. And because on Etsy, it just renews because I have a quantity of like 20 or whatever on there, it just sells over and over again. And so that is something where if I know it is like, that's just been a good way for me to actually, I just do the listing once and then it sells over and over again. And that sort of inventory, if I can process it and get it listed quickly, I would probably do that again. And because then it's storage. But it is the one of a kind items of like, I gotta stop. I can only buy what I'm able to list or sell in a couple within a very short amount of time frame. Yeah, because the overwhelm is just not worth it. It's just not. It's just
No,
so,
it's not healthy.
Yeah. And I don't want, like my garage is still full of stuff from my old booth that I need to work through. And it's just, it's a time sucker too. So I think I'm getting way more picky, and our customers want to know that we're picky. They don't want to see junk. They don't want to see stuff that's broken or chipped or, oh, this was so cheap, but it has this, not patina, not character, but like actual damage, where it's not that great of a piece. Like, just stop. eBay, I did eBay for a while, but I just didn't sell enough on there. It wasn't a good fit. So I stopped because it wasn't worth the time of cross posting at all. So yeah.
eBay, so that was one of my flops, I think. Or not a flop, but like be conscious of it. So eBay is great. It's a great tool to be able to shop like 24/7, but it's really easy to overspend and gain way too much inventory. So I was using eBay a lot. Because like, I don't know, I can't sleep at night. I know it's horrible. If you can't sleep at night, don't look at your phone because then it hurts. It gets bad for your eyes or whatever. But I'm like, okay, like I wonder if I could source because I can't sleep. Like these are things. Whatever. It's like a confession, right? So it's really easy because you could shop at online really anywhere. You could shop at all hours of the day. Like most antique stores, at least around here, they're only open Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. From like 10 to 4 or 10 to 5. So on the off days or like off hours, you could shop online and get inventory. Well, I think I did a lot of that. So I definitely need to cut back on that next year. I really just shouldn't shop at all for like the first couple months to like try to get like reduce the amount of clutter in here.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Someone else asked if what do you suggest, Etsy or a website? It okay, so I started, if you have your own website, you need to really commit to driving traffic there. And so that means you really have to be on top of your marketing game. You have to be willing to implement the systems, growing your Instagram, getting on a Facebook business page, building an email list, getting the lead magnets, to drive traffic there and to really market. If you're not in a place in your business that you can do that, then Etsy is a great way to start. I started on Instagram, and then and all of this was kind of, we go over this in our very first Shop Talk episode, where we go over our journey of how we got here and stuff. But I, started on Instagram, and then I opened an Etsy shop once I kind of got to a place where I really wanted to scale up my sales. And then I got to a point being on Etsy, I realized 25% of my traffic to Etsy was coming from my Instagram. And if I redirected that traffic to my own website, I would break even on the cost of running a website. So that meant that as my website grew, my revenue, money saved on fees would grow. So I opened my own website, but I still cross post to both. If stuff doesn't sell on Shopify, I put it on Etsy. And that has been a great thing for me. So it's just, again, it depends on your business. There's no better, because there are some people that are like, I just want to list stuff. Like, I don't want to worry about the marketing. That is what that fee is for on Etsy. And really the fee is like not that bad at all, compared to what you would pay for if you were in an antique booth or anywhere else. Even compared to eBay, the Etsy fees are pretty low. And so that is what you're paying Etsy for, is to market your shop for you, and to automate all of those systems. So hopefully that helps kind of answer.
And another thing I think I did, a lesson that I learned, is that I overextended myself way too much this year. Especially the weeks that I would do like 3 live sales in a week. And it would be like Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And I'm like, oh, that's fine, because if I have to invoice for 1 sale, I can invoice for 3. It's exhausting. So that's also something, that's also something I'm going to look into for next year. I'm definitely not going to do 3 live sales in a week. I don't know how people do it. Maybe if I was doing this full time, but I can't do it anymore.
Time and live sales was the only way that you were selling, I can see that working, because then you can set up systems. If you have someone to do the invoicing for you, if you're using Paloma is automated invoicing with Instagram sales, and it's a great platform. It just doesn't integrate with other systems, and so if you're only doing live sales, I can see that would work. But I find live sales to be I love them, and I can only do absolute max once a week, because it takes a lot of mental energy to do them. So it's a lot.
Yeah.
A lot. So I'm still
kind of takes, because I've been other than ours, I've been doing all of them like after dinner. And I feel like, well, first off, it's so much better to be on camera in the natural light. Well, today it's a little gloomy out, that's why it's dark. But it's so much better, I think, to show the items, unless you have some sort of like spotlights or things set up, which honestly are exhausting, I think, to look at for 2 hours. And the energy is just different during the day. So I think like that's another thing I'm going to rethink for next year, is doing like evening lives, maybe not so many, because it's a lot. And then it takes away from like family time, or I have to feel like rushed through dinner, and then my husband he doesn't mind. Like, he knows, oh, okay, it's sale night, like I have to do the dishes. But I don't know. I want to help him do the dishes, or I want to like watch a movie, or just kind of relax and not be like on alert for like two and a half hours and then go to bed, and I'm like wired because I was just talking.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think boundaries are so important, especially when it with Instagram and social media. And I've gotten better at just I was telling, okay, life hack, guys. During the holidays, if there's anything you really don't want to go to, you just say, I'm so sorry, we have family plans that night. We have family plans, we can't do it. It doesn't matter if your family plans are eating dinner and going to bed early or watching a Christmas movie or anything. Like, you are not obligated. I've used that for so many things. I'm just like, we can't, I'm sorry, we have family plans. I can't do it. There's just too many things. And I think for me, my boundaries of saying I don't do live sales once the kids are home, because I just can't. It's impossible, and it adds so much stress to our family life. Yeah, it's like figuring out your parameters and sticking them to it. That's something that book, Essentialism, talks about, of how, and I think especially with women, there's this cultural like pressure to be a team player, say yes, especially in the social media world. Like, and I'm trying to say this in a way that's really kind, and also like acknowledging that there's this amazing community. Yes, Candace. Yes, but I don't want to just, okay, Candace, you took the words out of my mouth. There is this like vibe where, oh my God, let's get on, let's hang out. Oh, I love you. You love me. We're besties. Of course I want to support you. I want to do all the things, like, oh, I'll do a live sale for you. And before you know it, you are overextending yourself, and and your motivation is so good. Their motivation is good. You want to spend time with people. You want to do all of these things. But on the flip side, when you say no, then, and it's no, and no one ever says anything to make you feel bad. No one ever says, like, no one has ever said to me, like, oh my God, you're such a witch for like not wanting to do a live sale with me. But there's just, I think it's just a very much like a very female problem of where we feel like we have to say yes and help everyone. And then, yep, Candace, you're right. And then you're no good for, definitely not for yourself. And I do think Essentialism, they talk about this of like, if you say no, people might be annoyed at first, but then they're going to respect you more for that. And you're setting an example for them so that they know, that they can say no too. That you can say that in a way that's kind, to be like, I would love to, I just don't have the capacity for that right now. Rowena, yeah, you can post stuff on your Instagram feed. Definitely, that's something that we dive into, I think, in the Instagram episode. So yeah, I'm just like such a big advocate for like setting boundaries and sticking to them, and we have to.
I think it depends, because there are definitely shoppers that prefer live sales, and then there are shoppers that prefer like posts or listings, and then there's some that fall in between. So I can't tell you that, like, I'm pretty much, how do I say it? Live sale or feed sale, either one is pretty similar for me. I do think it all depends on, I guess, your customer base, and it depends on maybe like if you put a preview up, and if somebody's like interested in something that you post as a preview to the sale, that might draw more attention to it and then increase your sales. But that could be for a live sale or for a feed sale. But it also like depends. So if someone's on Instagram and they see that you're live, they might be more inclined to click on that, but they might not see that you're actually posting sales, like to your page, posting items, because maybe you don't show up in their feed. So like a live sale might draw traffic, like more traffic to your sale, because like as soon as you open Instagram, you see the lives are right at the top. So that might bring in more viewers, but it doesn't necessarily bring in sales, because it kind of depends on their attention span, honestly, because a live sale, it's a lot. Like, it's a lot to do one, but it's also, you have to kind of like treat it as like a TV show, because you need like undivided attention like to it. If you really want to pay attention and you want to win that item, you have to be all in. And some people can't do that. I mean, I don't, how do I say, I'm one that doesn't really like watching live sales because I can't just sit. I have to like, oh, I have to sort through the mail. Oh, I have to clean up this package, like my packing supplies. Oh, I have to do this. Oh, I have to pack an order. So then there's no point in me because I'm not going to buy anything. I mean, unless I just want to watch or like support a friend, like I'll do that. But I don't shop live sales because I can't just focus. And when it comes to like posting to your page, you can like refresh every once in a while, but like you can do other things while the sale is happening, I think. So it all depends on the person and their preference.
I feel I made a goal this fall to consistently have my Wednesday morning live sales. Most of them are under an hour or right around an hour. It's solo, so it's just me Wednesday mornings because that's what works for me. And other people like, oh, are you going to have them in the evenings or the afternoons? I'm just like, I can't do that right now, but I do feel like it's been a really good way for people to get to experience me personally as
Mm-hmm.
on stage, and we chat and we talk about different things. And so there is the added benefit of that like personal touch. And some people love to get on because I talk about, both of, you and I both are so into the history of items and talking about the items too. So I think it's figuring out the balance of, if you want to add live sales to your repertoire, what works for you, and and,
Mm-hmm.
and don't be swayed from that. Start as you mean to go on. I'm a big, like, if you know that doing evening sales doesn't is not viable for you long term, don't start with evening live sales. If you know that you can't handle 3 sales a week, don't trick yourself like, well, I just have to hustle for a little bit, and then sorry, and start as you mean to go on. Okay, sorry, there's more
Yeah.
comments. Live sales do engage the audience. Yes, they buy. It again, it can be a great way to connect with your audience. How do you pay yourself? Oh my gosh. Okay, this gets into my plans for 2025 that we need to. Do you keep a certain percentage of sales, or do you have a shop talk on how to pay yourself? Oh, I love this. Okay, I'm gonna go first on this, or you want me to?
Um, I don't really have a method of how I do it. So I think you might provide a better answer.
So put that on your list for 2025. Um, I have an ideal, and because I overspent so much on inventory, I wasn't able to hit it, to be honest. But I kind of follow the profit first. Okay, it's like capitalized words. Profit first. It's by I can't remember. I can't pronounce the guy's last name because I think it's Polish. There's a lot of C's and Z's. Mike McCow. But if you just look at profit first, there's a calculator in there, and it is so helpful in breaking down how much you need to save. And so I was paying myself every 2 weeks a very consistent number, and it was roughly between 30 to 50% of my revenue for the month. It's a really good. Okay, good. So you know the book. Yeah, you don't even have to read the book. You can just, there's calculators online. Basically, you should be paying yourself 50% of your revenue every month. And that is goal moving forward. That's how I sit down. I look at my revenue. I print off, again, using Wave apps, it creates a profit and loss statement. So I can see all my expenses, how much I spent on cost of goods. It does all the math for me because I stink at math. And so then I can sit down and be like, okay, this is how much I have to pay myself. The other thing that I've been doing, because the other thing they say is take 5% of your profit and put it aside, is I actually have a business savings account, and I have been skimming off the top every week or every few weeks, because what I have found is that I have a checking account. So I have a business checking account. I have a couple of business credit cards that I am careful with, um, because I'm leveraging the points for a
Mhm.
UK next year, which I'll talk about in a minute. And then I have a business savings account. It's all under my personal name. I do have an LLC, but it's just under my personal. Don't make it complicated. But that one, I've been skimming off the top and just putting money in there, as much of the profit, even if it's like $100, $200, $50. And it's amazing how much that builds up, because you have to think about having a cash buffer for your business during really lean months so that you can continue to pay yourself a consistent wage. Like consistent salary is really important, especially if you're relying on that to pay bills for your family. If you're doing this not just for like side money, but you're actually paying like kids tuition and or saving up for a big family trip. So that's how I have it broken down, and that really should be the goal for those of us who are micro businesses. 50% of revenue is the goal. And that also will help you to limit your because that's what I was going to say, because the problem was I had all my money in the one checking account. Ideally, I would have like 5 checking accounts broken down for operating expenses, taxes, etc. But my savings account, I've been trying to just either I pay myself, I spend money, I send money to the savings account, and then I just keep operating expenses in that account. So then I'm not looking at it and be like, oh my gosh, I have so much money. I can just spend whatever I want on inventory. And that's what I was doing. I was just spending. And then I wasn't managing my money well. So.
Yeah, I need a better handle on that. So I have like, just with my regular bank, I have like a separate account that I allocate for business. It's not technically a business account, but I have a savings account and a checking account. The book is called Profit First.
Are you able?
So I was putting since I was using PayPal, I would like, when I got to a certain amount on there, I would just transfer to bank. So then I would just keep transferring to the bank. And I wasn't paying myself. Like I wasn't paying, how would I say it? Only like the money coming in only went to that account. I didn't like pay our house account or anything like that. It was only in the separate business account. So then recently I started, no. So if I was working full time, like I'm only working part time right now this year. If I was working full time, I'd be making X amount. So in my part time job, I'm making this much. The shop needs to contribute the rest of it, kind of a thing. So then I started paying like my personal account. So it's just like a balance, I guess, of where you're able to shift your money. But I liked it more because I wanted to see how much was actually not being spent on inventory or expenses. But then I realized like that's kind of silly. Like you have to pay yourself for the time that you're taking to do all of this.
In the Profit First book, he talks about that is the one thing that will kill new businesses, kill entrepreneurs, is because they don't pay themselves, and they might be running, $1 million startups, and they're sleeping in their offices at night because they can't afford rent, because like you have got to pay yourself first. You got to take the profit off and put it aside, and then you pay yourself. I'm probably going to do something. So in the fall of next year, hopefully, my toddler will be in preschool 4 days a week, and the older kids will be, they're in elementary school. But then that is like 20 hours. So I'm like, no, you don't send yourself a 1099. If you're a sole proprietor, it's just an owner's draw. Again, talk to your CPA, but you're not paying yourself the same way that like an office would pay you if you were an employee. You're not an employee, you're a sole proprietor. So how it shows up on your bookkeeping is just an owner's draw, and it's not even considered a salary. But then once you go to file your personal taxes, you do file it. Don't ask me how, talk to your CPA, but then you do file it under like miscellaneous income is how I think it kind of breaks down. You would not give yourself a 1099 until you file an S Corp, which is you have sole proprietor, LLC, S Corp. S Corp is when you have to start like withholding Medicaid and Social Security and all that, and then you're actually an employee of the business. So that's and that's, you'd have to be pulling in $60,000 of profit every year to get to an S corp status and have employees, etc. So most of us aren't there. Anyway, now I lost track of what I was saying, but
So in the fall, your little
oh,
one
I'll,
is in preschool.
I'll have 20 hours of dedicated work time. So then I'm just going to sit down and be like, what hourly wage do I want to pay myself? And then kind of work the numbers backwards from there to see how much revenue I need to be bringing in. So, yeah. Okay. So what other goals? I feel like we've talked a lot kind of about, what we're planning to do differently next year, but are there other things that you're like your goals, tools that you're hoping to use next year? Someone asked about schedules, like how do you systemize your schedule and all of that? Yeah.
Okay. So what I've noticed is that live sales are very saturated, like very saturated. Every time I'm like well, I don't even follow that many people. That's something else that I've done recently is I knock down a lot of the people that I follow just because it's just it's a lot, it's very crowded. And I can't see the content I actually want to see. So other people are like, oh, there's like 8 sales going on tonight. I'm like, okay, I see 2. But it depends on who you follow. But like 8 live sales at the same time, if it's like the same kind of crowd, I don't know how you would say it, same type of sellers, 8 is a lot. Like I feel like I don't know, it's overwhelming. So I'm rethinking live sales for next year. I will still do them, but I'm not going to do like 4 a month. I might do like 2, or I might do solo ones. I have still never done a solo live sale.
Come on, Nicole. That was your goal.
I know, and I didn't do any. So I think I might do that. I might just like pop on randomly and just do them because I did that whole calendar post thing for the past 2 years, where at the beginning of the month I would post a calendar of all the sales for that month. And I know it kept me organized, and it probably like was great for my customers to see what was coming up, but it's exhausting. So like, especially with all the family stuff that was going on the past couple months, I stopped using it in, I think, November or October. I couldn't maintain it. November, December, and it has been amazing not having a calendar. Like, it's kind of like something dangling that I have to like constantly achieve. So it's nice to like have the freedom to kind of just like do things when I'm able to. So I probably won't do the calendar post anymore, but the broadcast channel is great. So like if you guys want to be in the know, every week I can say, hey, this is what's coming up this week. And I post it on my stories if I have multiple things coming up. So then at least you have a heads up and you're not waiting for like a post that you might miss. I want to list consistently on Etsy. So my goal is to at least double the amount of listings from this year. I mean, that's like a really easy goal to achieve, I think. And I think I need to be a little bit more present on here because I don't really share on stories very much, like myself. It's usually just like pictures or ads or things like that. I think I need to like come on here and talk a little bit more because I feel like being more engaged will help people get to know who I am if you don't watch live sales. Whitney is the queen of posting reels, and I think I've only ever posted like 20, like ever. So I'm going to try to post more behind the scenes and like tips and tricks and just like little easy reels. And I want to start an email list. Finally. And then I chose my word for 2025, and it's going to be balance. Because there's just so much chaos. I need to be able to like balance my personal life, family life, work life, and shop life. So like I really need to kind of find the balance. and make it work.
Whenever and I wish I knew where I got this phrase, or maybe I made it up, I don't know, but whenever I hear the word balance, it's about figuring out how to prioritize the right thing at the right time. Because it's like that you can never, like, when you think of balance, it's like, how do I do all of these things at once? It's like, no, it's just figuring out what is the right thing for right now that I need to focus on doing. And sometimes it's family, and sometimes it's work. Sometimes, you know, like, I need to get this done so that later I can focus on the family stuff.
Right.
Like that is like a good picture of what balance feels like, is like not getting distracted or pulled off course. It's less about us balancing things in our hands and more about like our internal balance of being like, I know what I need to focus on right in this moment, and then what comes after that too. Instead of getting pulled off balance and pulled towards so many different competing priorities.
Well, that, I just feel like I'm like, oh, I have this to do. Oh, I have that to do. Oh, I have that to do. Like, I have to pack orders. I was supposed to pack orders like yesterday. And I was supposed to start packing orders like a couple days ago. And I was supposed to do this. Oh, and I have to take pictures for my flat lay post on Friday because I already committed to that. And it's like, oh, and then I have to organize this inventory and I have to wash that stuff so I could bring it upstairs and put it away. And it's just like, write it down, prioritize, and just get it done. Stop like here, 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 here. And that's how I feel like I operate every day. And it's exhausting. And then I end up getting nothing done because I'm trying to think of like what order I'm going to do all these things in. It's just like, okay, find a task and do it. So that it helps you later on.
Right.
So I definitely need to get on top of that because this is not working.
Okay, I'm gonna buy more selectively. I thought about doing, see, here's the thing, it's like I don't even want to do like I need to do a buying ban, and not, it's like I don't want to be on a buying ban, but I just want to be so picky and so selective. And I keep talking about this, the Essentialism book. I need to reread that for the new year. He talks about like only say yes to the 9 out of 10 or 10 out of 10 opportunities where it is a heck yes. It's an amazing piece at an amazing price, and my customers are going to love it. Like that absolute, like, heck yes. I don't want even the 8s or the 7s, like the almost good enoughs or the just good enoughs. Like I only want to say yes to the absolute best pieces at the best price. So that's something that, you know, I want to make space for. I want to keep doing my weekly lives, but I've got to figure out a better system because the problem is, honestly, it's really down to logistics, where I have the one table where I take pictures is also where I stack my stuff for my live sale. And this is one of those small guys. This is like, sometimes our changes in business are not these massive revolutionary changes. I was thinking about this. Really, all I need to do, because the problem is I would put everything out for my live sale, and the stuff that doesn't sell, which is usually like over half, it sits there, and then I get overwhelmed and I don't know where to put it, and then pictures. So really what I need to do is just get a little shelf. I just need a little shelf right here in this, you can't see it, but it's on the other side of the camera. I just need to put a little shelf there, keep my live sale stuff there, and keep my photography space clean so that when I have 30 minutes, my biggest barrier is getting pictures done, so that when I have 30 minutes to spare, I can, usually my minimum is 5. Like I always say, let's just do 5 pieces, 5 items. I can photograph five items in 30 minutes. And then I have the photos and I can list whenever. So that is one small change that I think is actually going to make a really big impact in my workflow. And then that's going to help too with my schedule as far as being able to list consistently, increase my profit. So last year I set a revenue goal of increasing my revenue by 10%. Clearly I blasted that out of the water, but my profit didn't increase because my inventory were out of control. So now my goal this year is to increase my profit and pay myself a consistent paycheck. And one of my big goals is I'm going to England next year, baby.
So exciting.
Don't know when. I don't know who is coming with me, okay? I've been on a crusade to convince my family to come with me. My husband basically doesn't want to take the toddler, and my mother was like, I'm not watching her. Like, I'll go to England with you. And then my husband was like, that'd be like having two of you in England.
You're funny.
But I mean, yeah, I've been saving credit card points and looking at things strategically, talking to a lot of dealers who go over there. I'm not getting a container or anything. I've looked into that intensively and realized my business is not there yet. Maybe in 5 years, I think it would be, but I'm hoping in the fall to do a buying trip and just bring stuff back in suitcases and start networking and building the relationships with dealers there. Thankfully, with Instagram, I already connect with a lot of people. And so that is one of my big goals of like, I don't know how or when, but the more you verbalize it, it's going to happen. So, um, tell us more about your trip to, Hannah. So, okay. She just said trip to England. So that's exactly what I just said. So details to be fleshed out.
Oh, you didn't do a countdown in stories for that sale. Like maybe you have to do that. Or like, oh, you didn't post today that your sale is tomorrow. Or like I think I need to revisit that and actually have something like that I can see
Yeah.
and make sure that I've kind of achieved every step along the way. But usually it's just like kind of like autopilot after a while. It's like, oh, okay, I'm having another feed sale like tonight. Okay, I'm having a small collection that I'm listing on my page. Okay, well, I did this. Like, I think I need to actually have something physical, or even if it's on the computer in like a notepad or something like that, I can just keep track of it that way. But I guess that would be like my biggest goal to just kind of have the reassurance that I did all the steps.
Yeah. Yeah. We have a little checklist like that for Shop Talk. And I feel like in nursing, I can't remember what we call it, but yeah, there's like a daily, it's like a checklist. There's certain things you do every day. There's certain things you do once a week. There's certain things, that get triggered. But okay, if we're doing this, and it really does decrease the amount of stress. I really like a loop schedule, which is something I got from homeschooling. So instead of having a schedule that's like on Monday we do this, on Tuesday we do that, it's more of a loop. So my loop would be, okay, my loop has a lot of times been on, let's say, starting on Monday, ship all my weekend orders, and then photograph 5 items for a website drop, then pull items for a live sale, and so it's more like a task. And so instead of feeling like I have to get this done on Monday, it's like I get this done, and oh, that took me less time, so maybe I can do the next thing. And if my kids get sick or something happens and I'm not working for a few days, I just go to the next thing on the list and then do it. If that makes, so it's a loop. And then once I finish, I go back to and it just repeats. So that has helped me to feel more freed up from like a set calendar, and where, once I've done my live sales, okay, now I tag items for my booth and then I go to my booth. So it means I'm not at, I'm not restocking my booth every Tuesday afternoon, but I'm getting it done so it's more scheduled. So that works better for me in this season of life.
That's good. That's kind of how I feel about house chores. It's like, okay, I do laundry. When I'm done with laundry, I vacuum. When I'm done vacuuming, I do this. And it's just like, oh my God. And then you get to start all over again. But at least this is like somewhat fun. I don't find vacuuming or laundry fun.
Oh, yeah. You just reminded me I need to go clean the toilets. Anyway. Oh, all right. Well, if you guys have any more questions, let us know. I feel like we got everything covered pretty much. Thank you, Nicole, as always, for being
Thank you. I know, it's so fun. I love doing this with you.
It is like a highlight. It's a highlight of my career, of my professional life. No, seriously.
And I'm also what?
Big goals for next year is to actually meet you in person, because sometimes I just like forget that.
I know. Oh, it's so funny. I'll like say to my mom, "Oh yeah," and then Whitney, and she's like, "Who's Whitney?" I was like, "Oh, my Instagram friend." And she was like, "Oh, okay." Like she still like doesn't understand that, like, I guess she can't just like she can't wrap her head around how like my closest friends live thousands of miles from me. She's like, "Yeah, but they're your like close friend." I'm like, well, I mean, I talk to them more than I talk to like my friends that are down the street or whatever, the next town over.
Yeah, that's a big goal. Is I would love to do like a shop talk in person with.
Oh, that would be fun.
Yes, so you guys can root for us to make that happen. So, all right. Well, I will have the replay up here shortly, and thank you so much, guys, for supporting Shop Talk and being here and everything. And have a wonderful rest of the month and holiday season. We got this.
Yeah. Thank you, everybody.